whether the team is giving us the highest of highs or the bluest of blues. We'll cover it all here on Commanders Nightly News. I, of course, am your host, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Let's get to tonight's lead story. Victory Monday. Celebrate! The good guys are 7-5, riding a 3-game win streak, winners of 6 of their last 7 after a dramatic 19-13 victory over the Atlanta Falcons. It was a tough, hard-fought game in the rain. Came down to the latter stages of the ball game. Falcons had us dead to rights, very similar to the Chicago Bears game that we found a way to hold on the goal line stand. This one was a little bit more dramatic in the sense of an interception. I don't know if you can get any more dramatic than the Bears. I mean, that ball literally was inches away from the goal line. If Darnell Mooney catches it cleanly, it's probably a touchdown. Instead, he bobbles it, and then Juice makes a great play to keep him out of the end zone. Anyway, what a great game. What a great finish, and what a great outcome for Washington. The Seahawks ultimately lose later on in the day in overtime to the Raiders. And so Washington leapfrogs them in the standings and takes 7th place in the NFC, which would put them in the playoffs if it started today. It doesn't start today. There's still a lot of work to be done. We'll talk about that as the week progresses. Tomorrow's show, we will dedicate a block of time to just talk about the standings, where we sit, what needs to be done, and those things. But today I want to focus on the game itself. I finally had a chance to rewatch it, watch it in its entirety. Remember, I didn't see the first, maybe 4 or 5 plays of the Falcons' initial drive of the game because I got home late. So I was able to watch everything. I think I even missed maybe 2 or 3 of the Washington plays on their first drive as well. The Terry McLaurin catch on that first drive, I missed that. So it was good to watch it all over again. And of course, upon further review, let's get to it as Washington ekes out a 19-13 victory over the Falcons. So upon further review, it was funny. I was on social media and I got a message from my guy, Rico. And Rico said he had watched the show last night, and I read the comments, the tweets or the text messages rather, back and forth from me and my sister. My sister's a Falcons fan. And I told her I never want to see her Falcons team again. Like, I knew it was going to be tough, but upon further review, that Falcons offense is so hard to defend. That was not fun to watch them do what they did to us. Marcus Mariota pulling the football and running consistently with at least 7 to 10 yards of green grass in front of him and not a defender in sight was very frustrating all day long. And there really wasn't any adjustments to be made. I was sick to my stomach because we kept falling for the same thing over and over again. It didn't feel like there was any adjustment that was made. I was frustrated at the way we allowed them to run the football in the first half. I talked about they needed to go to the 5-man defensive front. They should have done that in the first half instead of waiting to the second half to make that adjustment. But that's nor here nor there. The bottom line is that we found ways to get stops. It wasn't always easy. It wasn't always because of something that we did. Mariota was inaccurate at times. You got a drop from Drake London on a 3rd down, would have easily been a conversion for a 1st down that killed a drive for the Falcons. So it wasn't always something that we did. We got help. But again, in these types of situations, any and every help that you get is welcomed help. But that Falcons offense, they're a ton to deal with. They are tough and they're physical and they block. I mean, they were getting some great double team blocks up front. Those guys were getting to the second level. I mean, there were runs. There was one run in particular. I want to say it was a Tyler Algier run. You could have driven a Mack truck through that hole. I was like, what? I haven't seen our defense be gashed like that in the run game since week 1 Jacksonville, when they were gashing us at a 7 a pop per clip, in week 1. Like, this doesn't happen to us. Ever since John Ridgeway came on board, I felt like our defensive line and our run defense has been as stout as anybody's in the league. And here they are getting double teams up front, reaching to the second level, getting to the linebacker, and they're destroying us up front. I'm just like, what in the world is going on here? But you got to credit the Falcons, man. That's what they do. They don't change for anyone. Yep, we got a really stout run defense. They didn't care. They came in here and they ran it down our throats. And they made it tough on us. And that read option is no damn joke. And Marcus Mariota was pulling that bitch. And he did not care. And he was willing to take the punishment. And he was killing us. He was absolutely killing us. So, I never want to see the Falcons again. Not that iteration of the Atlanta Falcons. Maybe, we see them again and they got a different quarterback and a different scheme and offense that they're running. I don't want to see that shit again. That was a nightmare to deal with. Upon further review, John Bates. Good for John Bates, man. I've been not a John Bates hater per se. Some people might term me as a John Bates hater. Knock yourself out. Anybody that plays for this team, I can't dislike you, okay? And you guys should know that. Once you're a part of this team, you're family. And I embrace you as such. Now, I like certain family members more than others, obviously. Who doesn't? That's how it goes in life. You've got a favorite cousin. You've got a favorite uncle. You've got a favorite aunt. This is no different, all right? I've got my favorite tight ends, but John Bates is a guy that I respect, and he serves the purpose. There is a role for him on this team, and I've said it. He's the third tight end. Now, he's the second on this team, but in a true offense with weapons, he's the third tight end, and I think he could be one of the best third tight ends in football. If you make him tight end TE2, if you make him your second tight end, he's one of the lower tier tight end twos in the league. But when he came out of Boise State, he could catch the football. I thought he was more athletic than people gave him credit for. I was wrong. They were right. He's not as athletic, but he can catch the football. And if you give him an opportunity, he can make plays. And you saw it. Even the one that he didn't get his feet in bounds, that's a hell of a catch to go up, climb the ladder with defenders all around you, pull that football down just to get his feet down, which is fine. It was going to be a tough ask. I don't think, even if there wasn't anybody around, I don't know if he gets both feet down. It was a tough angle for him to get his feet down. But the catch that he made for the touchdown, wide open, a wet day, easy to, have something go awry, beautiful, design by Scott Turner. You're running the football. That's the kind of stuff that I'm talking about when I say I want to see the heavy play action fake really benefit us. If you're going to run the football as much as we've been running it, these past 6 games with Taylor Heineke in the lineup, if you're going to run the football as much as we are running it, you need to be able to reap the benefits of running the football in that manner. You need to be able to sell play action fake and have linebackers and safeties step up and come attack the line of scrimmage, expecting run, and get guys wide open. John Bates was wide open. Why? Because they thought we were going to run the football. That play action fake worked to perfection. I want to see more of that. There should be more guys running wide open because we're running the football so effectively. And even if it's not as effective, we're running it consistently. We're sticking with it. The stick-to-itiveness of this run game should force teams to come up and look to stop the run. It's a lot more effective when you're having success running like we were against the Falcons, because if you're not having success, why do I need to come up and be over aggressive to stop the run? If you're not getting any real gains, if you're not really gashing us, I don't need to be over aggressive in my run support. I can stay back and I don't need to be over aggressive and fall for the banana in the tailpipe. But if you're gashing me like we were gashing them yesterday, you should be able to reap the benefits of that. I'm glad to see John Bates getting involved. He had probably a little bit more targets than I was comfortable with, because with, all the guys with Cole Turner and Logan Thomas on this team, guys that are a lot more athletically gifted and guys that have the ability to make more, bigger plays, I think that they should be the ones. If we're going bootleg and you're sending a guy out in the flats, that should be Cole Turner. He's the fastest of the 3 guys. That should be Cole Turner. But I love the fact that, John Bates is getting involved, because that's just another guy that defenses have to prepare themselves for. Another guy that they have to concern themselves with. And now you can't just say, oh, don't worry about 87. He's not getting the football. He can hurt you too. It was good to see John Bates get involved. And I'm not sure, but I think that might have been John Bates' first career NFL touchdown. I don't think he's ever scored a touchdown before. I could be wrong about that. You know, he might have scored a touchdown against Dallas last year on that. I stopped watching the game. Remember, I was live at halftime of that massacre at Dallas last year with, the Deron Payne and Jonathan Allen scrum, on the sideline. I was at halftime. I was live. So I didn't even watch the rest of that game. So I don't know if Bates got in the end zone then. He might have gotten in the end zone. But I can't recall him scoring a touchdown. If it wasn't that game, I've watched every game. I've seen every play. He hasn't scored in any other situation. So whatever the case may be, good for John Bates, man. I'm happy for him. Upon further review, our defensive line is legit. Now, it was going to be tough on those ends yesterday. It was no way around it. Those guys were going to struggle. They were going to read those ends. James Smith-Williams had a rough go of it yesterday. He didn't know if he was coming or going. He was so confused. I can't tell you how many. And again, his job may have been you attack the running back no matter what. And again, someone else's job is to go and attack the quarterback. But he didn't do a good job of, the guy coming across the formation that he thinks is going to block him. Like after the second time that he doesn't block you, at some point you've got to say, okay, you're not getting to the second level to block my linebacker or my safety. I'm going to get a piece of you, right? Take you out of the mix, and that will allow my teammate to make a play on the quarterback. Instead, he just let that guy go by him every single time and bypass him. He doesn't stop Mariota, and Mariota runs right by him. And now he's got the fullback, Parker Hesse, getting to the second level, and now he's taking out the linebacker or the safety, and now Mariota's getting to the third level. And you're like, uh-oh. So it was a rough go of it for the ends, but on the interior, those guys, Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, specifically Payne, outstanding. Obviously, the batted ball at the end led to the interception to preserve the victory from Payne, but Payne had 2 tackles for loss before that. Montez Sweat with the sack, and some of that was caused due to pressure from the interior, and then Sweat cleaned it up. And so this defensive line is really good. It truly is. And James Smith-Williams, even though he had a rough go of it, he was the one that made the big play down on the goal, on the 1st and goal from the 4-yard line on Mariota. Even though he didn't make the tackle, I think that stopped them from running it again. If they get 2 yards on that 1st and goal and they're down to the 2-yard line, they're going to run it and run it and run it, and they're going to get in. But because James Smith-Williams sniffed it out finally, and that easily could have been a 6-yard loss, instead he ends up only losing 1 yard and goes back to the 5. I think it changed what they wanted to do, and instead of them continuing to run it, they decided to throw it, and you get the batted ball and the pick. So, the defensive line is, upon further review, they're serious, man. It's the strength of this team, and we still don't have, a full assortment yet. We still don't have Chase Young back, and that's the strength of this team, and it's not close. Brian Robinson, upon further review, Brian Robinson is almost all the way back if he's not fully back. And I'm pretty sure if you ask him, he'll tell you I'm still not all the way back yet. But yesterday was as close as we've gotten to all the way back Brian Robinson. This is as close as we've been to the guy we saw in the preseason that we were excited about. He was shifty. He was explosive. We actually saw another gear that we hadn't seen this season where he got the 21-yarder down the sideline. He made a guy miss out in space where he, juked him and then got outside. We saw the power, which we've seen on, full display multiple times this season, but, ran over a defender en route to the touchdown on the opening drive of the game for Washington on offense. We saw the power on, one run where he bounces it outside. He runs over a guy. It takes a hellacious hit, spins off of that. Another guy hits him from behind, pinballs off of that, and keeps going and ends up getting 11 yards on a run that looked like he was going to be stopped dead in his tracks at around 6 or 7 yards. And he still powers his way for an additional 4 or 5 yards after contact. The guy is an animal. And it's exactly what this team needs. And he's a great change of pace from Antonio Gibson. Speaking of which, upon further review, I talked about this play yesterday with Antonio Gibson, and I didn't know that 3rd down where Heineke checks it down to him, and the Falcons are getting depth in their drop. They're playing what looks like cover three, or yeah, it was cover three because it looked like a form of three deep, four underneath, but they were getting depth, right? And there was nobody around Antonio Gibson, and if he doesn't, and remember I said I don't know if the ball took him to the floor, to the ground, and caused him to go down to catch it, or if he just slipped. He just slipped. That would have been a first down. Now, Antonio has been known to try to get flashy, and instead of him running through a defender, he wants to run around them, and so who knows? He may not have gotten the first down. We've seen him do some questionable shit when it comes to being physical, and we know he can be physical. That's the part that's so frustrating. I mean, he was mic'd up one time in a game. Matter of fact, it was against the Vikings, and I remember talking about this. It was a third down, and we ultimately got the first down. They had called, the Vikings for like a late hit on the quarterback or something. But if they didn't call that, we would have had to punt, and it would have been because Antonio Gibson, instead of him just running straight through a defender and picking up the first down, he decided he wanted to spin for whatever reason, and he started juking first and foremost, and then he tried to like kind of spin, and he ended up getting tackled like 1.5 yards short of the first down. And you're like, what the hell are you doing, man? Just run straight. You'll get the first down. And then he was mic'd up that particular game, and he was like, damn, I should have just ran straight. What was I thinking? Yeah, and everybody else at home was saying the same goddamn thing. So we don't know what he would have done. He would have gotten that first down. That sucked. We ultimately had to punt. That was the possession where we were up 19-13 with roughly 6 minutes to go in the game. Clock's running. You get that first down. The Falcons are now officially in trouble, and they're going to have to start thinking about using their timeouts. The first down is always the hardest to achieve. You get that first down in that 4-minute offense, and now you've got the opposition reeling. You got the ops searching for answers and thinking about using timeouts and things of that nature. We didn't get that first down, and that opportunity was there if Antonio Gibson does not slip. It wasn't a great game by Gibson, and I thought Jonathan Williams actually came in and did a really good job. Upon further review, there was a lot made of Jahan Dotson not getting a single touch in the game, and rightfully so. He's a playmaker. I'm a big fan of, if you've got playmakers, if you've got guys that are dangerous with the football in their hands, you got to make a concerted effort to get them at least a touch, and preferably early in the game to keep them engaged. If I were an offensive play caller, I'd be predictable from this standpoint. My playmakers are going to touch it early. You know that. You don't know how they're going to touch it. You don't know in what form or fashion. But if you're playing against me as a defensive coordinator and I'm the offensive coordinator, you'd pretty much know that, hey, he's going to get his playmakers the football early. So we just got to be on high alert. We don't know how he's going to attack us and try to get them the football, but he's going to try to get in the more playmakers and dynamic guys that I have, the more guys that I have to script in the first 15 to get a touch. And I'd make sure my first 15 that Jahan Dotson touches it once, that Terry McLaurin touches it once, that Antonio Gibson touches it once, that Curtis Samuel touches it once. I'd make sure that Logan Thomas gets a touch. In my first 15 that I script, I'm going to make sure I dial up opportunities for my playmakers to get engaged and involved in the ball game early. All right. Now, I can't guarantee you that I'm coming back to you later in the game, but if I establish you early, there's more reason for me to feel comfortable that you're going to be ready when the opportunity comes. When you haven't had your number called all game long and then you finally throw it to me in the third quarter, I may not be ready for it. And you should be. You're a professional, but look, we're humans. It's easy to become disengaged in the football game if you're not getting the football. But that's not the kind of team that we have. We got a team, but a bunch of professionals, guys that are selfless. And so I don't really worry about that happening. But, Jahan Dotson didn't touch the football. Like, that shouldn't happen. And look, I made all kinds of excuses yesterday. When you're running it as much as we are, and we're running it damn near 40 times a game now. Taylor Heineke had, 23 pass attempts? Like, when you're running it as much as we run it now, if there's not a lot of opportunities to go around, that that's a bullshit ass excuse. Jahan Dotson should touch the football. There's nothing else to be said. And so they've got to be better. And Curtis Samuel shouldn't have a game where he doesn't have a catch, even if it's a screen just to get it in his hands. Yeah, he had 4 carries, and I love that. And they need to continue to make that the magic number, 4 carries every game. But he also needs to catch it in the pass game, and he didn't have a single catch. But it's going to be games like that, and I totally expect Scott Turner to self-scout and say, you know what? Jahan has to touch the football. I guarantee you they're going to go out of their way to make sure he touches it early in the next game. I'd bet any amount of money on that. But you can't have games where guys like Curtis Samuel and Jahan Dotson don't have a catch. That, to me, doesn't make any sense. I don't care if we're not throwing it very many times. Those guys, in the whatever amount of times you throw it, they should have at least 1 catch. Not a target, but a catch. A touch, something. Curtis touched it, but Jahan never did, and that shouldn't happen. Scott Turner, speaking of Scott Turner, I actually thought this was a well-called ball game. I thought there were, 1 or 2 things he could have done differently. I just mentioned them, getting more playmakers involved when you do decide to throw the football. However, I had no problems with what he did. He did a great job of sticking to the run. It was a nasty, wet day. And sometimes you got to protect Taylor from himself. And I think he did that, even though I'm not the biggest fan of that in certain situations. I get it. You don't want a repeat of the Minnesota game. You're up 6. Taylor lets one rip over the middle of the field. We saw the shit he did before halftime. Like, you're afraid that could happen again. And just like the Vikings game, you're afraid that he could throw that back-breaking interception that puts you – if that's how you feel, then there needs to be a conversation about, are we playing the right quarterback? I get it. There's a lot – but you can't be afraid to throw the football in situations where you need to throw the football. And on that 19-13 drive, after a 2-yard loss to Antonio Gibson on a toss, you needed to throw the football there. You didn't need to come back with a – 3-yard, 2-yard Brian Robinson run that gets you to 3rd and 10 or 3rd and 9. You needed to throw the football there. And if you don't trust Heineke to throw the football there, then we don't have the right guy in at quarterback. So that was the one gripe that I had. And look, we went 2 of 3 in the red zone. I'm tired of not having touchdowns when we get down there. Let's score touchdowns, But we were 2 of 3. We weren't terrible in the game, but I'm looking for perfection down there. I'm looking to go 3 of 3. We'll get down there 3 times. Let's score 3 touchdowns. So, Taylor Heineke. Upon further review, it was a Taylor Heineke game. I thought Ron Rivera summed it up best. Like, that's Taylor Heineke. What we saw in that game, that's Taylor Heineke. You live with some of the decision making. You don't love it. The interception before the half. I didn't love it. Obviously, it was a terrible decision. I don't even know what he thought he was doing there. There was no way he was fitting that football in there. None. Like, what are you doing? His, all of a sudden reluctancy to run the football himself. Like, he's escaping the pocket and he's extending, but he's extending the pass. He's almost to the point now where he doesn't want to run unless he has to run. Like, bro, run. A first down's a first down. We don't give a shit how you get it. If it's 3rd and 1, I'd much rather you run for 2 yards than you try to throw it down the field 8 yards and have it be incomplete. Just pick up the damn first down. It's almost as if he's trying to prove a point. Like, I can run. I can throw the football. I don't need to run. Bro, run. And I really think it's more of him trying to preserve his body than anything else. But I'd like to see him run a little bit more. I think he is now getting into that Carson Wentz territory of not really wanting to run. But if I have to, I can. But he's extending. This is the thing Carson wasn't doing. He's extending. Okay, he's using his mobility to get out of there. But I need him to make a decision. Either you're going to throw it, somebody's open and you're going to find them and you're going to hit them, or you're just going to take off and run. He's got to make a decision. He's got to make it faster. He was solid in the game. 14 to 23, 138 yards. He was fine. Look, it was a nasty, wet day. The conditions were what they were. He made one really bad throw, 2 bad throws. He could have easily been picked off on that outbreaking route by A.J. Terrell. It just happened to hit the ground. I'd like him to be better. I want this offense to score more points. And the only way it's going to score more points is if he's better. So he needs to be better. But it was good enough for us to get the win. But that wasn't one of his better performances. If you're asking me of all the games we've won with Heineke under center, I'd tell you that that was probably his most blah and meh performance. You know, he was more of a passenger than he was a driver. Daron Payne's play on the sack, non-sack, I had a lot of people hit me up saying that he touched him, he was down, they should have challenged it. I watched that play a million times, forwards, backwards, sideways, upside down. I never saw an angle that showed Daron Payne touching in any way, clipping him, kicking him, brushing him, anything, in any manner, shape, form whatsoever. There was no angle that showed Daron Payne getting any part of Marcus Mariota. None. Mariota appeared to trip on his own, duck under the pressure, get back up, and find a wide open Olamide Zaccheaus. I don't see anything wrong. I don't think Ron needed the challenge. He wasn't going to win. I still haven't seen an angle. You got an angle? Please show it to me. That shows Daron Payne getting a piece. I haven't seen that angle yet. So, for those of you who keep claiming that he touched him, prove it. If you've got proof, I'd love to see it. He didn't touch him, as far as I'm concerned. The crowd. Upon further review, the crowd was electric. By all accounts, Christina Pink, who was the sideline reporter for the game, she mentioned that that's the loudest. She's been to FedEx Field countless times on assignments that she's done for Fox. And she said this is by far, in a way, the loudest she's heard it. And she said on that Kendall Fuller pick, it's the loudest she's heard that stadium. I've had at least 15 people who were at the game tell me the exact same thing. So I know it's real. And I got goosebumps because the NFL had their cameraman, they posted the clip of what their cameraman got. And it gave us the sound, and it was loud. And it was vibrant. And that's what we need, The players feed off of that energy. And I'm glad to hear that they're starting to rally behind a team that's starting to play competent football. Like, this is a legit outfit that we're putting on the field week in and week out. Still got a long way to go on offense, but this is a team that's believing, and they're finding ways to win. In past years, we found ways to lose. We're finding ways to win football games now. That means something. And upon further review, Kendall Fuller, what more can I say? He has been outstanding in the last month of the season or so, since the Vikings game, really. No, I take that back. Since the Packers game, he's been outstanding. Playing exceptional football. He's playing the brand of Kendall Fuller football that we know he's capable of. He's blowing up screens. Remember that fourth down play against Green Bay? He blew that up, right? He blew up the screen against the Falcons. He was all over Adam Thielen against the Vikings. Had the pick six to get the party started against the Texans last week. Had the game-clinching pick this past week against Atlanta. He's playing top-notch football. You add to what Benjamin St-Juste was doing prior to the injury, and you get what Kendall Fuller's doing. If those two guys continue to play at that type of level, coupled with what we're getting from the safety position and the defensive line, and Jamin Davis at linebacker, you see why this defense is starting to become one of the better units in all of football. It's not a coincidence that we're holding teams down, that we're not giving up a bunch of points, that we're now creating turnovers, and Fuller's a part of that. He was exceptional again yesterday. Big play. And I had someone come and tell me, oh, anybody could have made that play. He was just at the right place at the right time. That's bullshit. Not everybody's making a diving stab on a play where the guy's trying to knock it down right in front of you and it's wet outside. And you're going in the opposite direction. You stop, plant, dive back across your body and stop the ball from hitting the ground. Not everybody's making that play. Yeah, right. Anyway, just give the man credit. Just say, even if you don't like Kendall Fuller, just say, damn, Kendall Fuller's playing well. That's all you have to say. Anyway. Washington gets the win. Celebrate! We're 7-5. Feels good. Feels good. In other news, really don't have a lot. Didn't hear from Ron today for whatever reason. And maybe, he'll come on a little bit later, or maybe it'll be after the recording of this show. He'll speak to the media. But we heard about we saw the press conferences from everybody yesterday. Brian Robinson had the big hat on. That's been one of the big things, today. That's cool. He got the game ball in the locker room, had a speech. This team, they believe. They believe in one another. They believe in Ron Rivera. This is a team that, and Ron was asked about, the early struggles this season, if it affected him. And he said, no, it's the same thing that happened in Carolina. I've been saying that. I don't want to keep bringing it up, but this team is kind of playing like that team did in Carolina in year 3. But I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. That team went 12-4 in Carolina after starting 1-3. I'm not saying, I'm just saying, I'm going to leave it at that. But I want to talk about Chase Young quickly and we'll get out of here. So Chase Young was slated to play. He talked about this after the game. He was excited about Chase and the progress that he had made after Friday's practice, and they thought he was going to play. They had every intentions of Chase Young making his debut for the 2022 campaign on Sunday, and then he got sick. And the flu was going around. If you recall, there were several guys that were out of practice this week due to an illness, and Chase ended up catching that flu bug on Saturday. He did not feel good Saturday or Sunday, and so they said that him playing was going to be dependent upon how he felt Saturday, and then if they worked him out pregame and he felt good, then they would go ahead and cut him loose. Obviously, they didn't get to do that because he wasn't feeling well, so they didn't even want him to come in. We don't want to anybody that's sick, stay away from the team. We don't want other guys getting sick. So they weren't able to do that. That's why he didn't play. I'm guessing that this was less about his knee and more about just cardiovascular-wise and, health, sickness, not feeling well. So that leads me to believe that he could be, all systems go for Sunday's game at the Giants. But I've said this already. You get this close to the bye, why not just wait till after the bye? But I also said that this is football. Every one of these counts. This is not the NBA. You don't get 82 of these. This is not MLB. They're on 162 of these. So if a guy can go, you're not thinking about, hey, let's get him an extra week of rest. Let's play him right now. If he can help us win, let's get him out there right now. And so there's a prevailing thought that says, get him out there prior to the bye. It'll give him more time to recuperate after the game so that he's not coming right back like Brian Robinson did and play 4 days later. You give him a chance to go out there, run around a bit. He'll be sore, right? But you'll have more time to recuperate after that and be ready for the stretch run. Or you could just say, hey, give him more time to get on the field, and he should be ready post-bye. I'm going to go with the former, not the latter, and say that if he's ready, if he feels good, he's going to go against the Giants on the road in week number 13. But we'll see. We'll continue our Chase Young watch. I think he's going to play this week. But I said that last week. I said that 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. So we'll see what happens. But I digress. Anyway, that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T. Tomorrow's show, we will dive into the standings. We will dive into the NFC East. We will dive into the conference, see where Washington sits after the victory and what everyone else is doing and how that impacts Washington. So we'll have a lot to discuss tomorrow as we, continue to enjoy. I'll get on that film for you guys as soon as I have access to it. We will also dive into the studs and duds for the week. And then we'll start to turn that page to the New York Giants because that's a massive game, not just for Washington and their playoff hopes, but also in the NFC East as well. We're right now 1-2 in the division. We need to turn that around. We just beat the Eagles to get our first win. Now it'd be great to get back to 500 in the division by beating the New York Giants, the team that we will face each of the next 2 games. So this is a big one. If you get the first one on the road, it makes us feel a lot more confident about the second one back at the crib. So that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T. Celebrate! We got the win. We're 7-5. The best record this team has had this late in the season since 2008. Let that sink in and marinate. You guys have a good one.
Here comes the diesel. Here comes the diesel. There's the snap, hand to Riggins. Good hole. He's got the first down to the 40. He's gone. The 35, the 30, the